Okay, guys, we are live. I want to thank. You can see tonight we have South Bend Hawk on and JD join us on the show tonight. I think we've got an interesting show for you today. We're gonna talk about the 247 Sports position groups and depth chart that came out today, their opinion, and we're gonna talk about some intangibles that could affect Iowa's win-loss record. Something that I hadn't taken into consideration today. And so, Calvin has joined us. Hi, Calvin. And so, first of all, I got to take care of business. All right.
Heck, you might as well bring Calvin on too.
Oh, yeah, Calvin, I hope you're feeling better today. All right. Today, I would like you guys to subscribe. I'm begging you to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Okay, we picked up 3 subscribers this week, which is great. My goal was to get to 400 by the time we hit kickoff. You guys got exactly 10 days to get it done. 10 days to get me 150 something, 154 subscribers. Please, let's just share this, subscribe, like while you're on the air. Before you do anything else, hit the like button. That's not for me alone. That is for YouTube to see that people are watching. And so when they see I got viewers and subscribers and likes, they'll put me more in the algorithm. And when people punch in Iowa Hawkeye, I would hope that I could come up. So that's where we're at. And then don't forget to comment tonight and share a lot. And so let's get going.
Also, Dean.
Yeah.
Let's also remind the viewers too, after this podcast, jump over and find Punting is Winning, that JD and his brother Keith do an Iowa Hawkeyes podcast as well, but only after you've watched this one.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got a new episode out. It's really good, guys. I listened to the whole thing, and I don't even remember what your question of the week was, but I answered it.
It was about give us your season prediction.
Yeah.
What one loss for Iowa?
Okay. By the way, while we're asking, what was the answer to the question from the previous week on the 3 unanimous All-American?
It was Calvin Jones, and he misstated it. He meant to say 3-time first-team All-American, but he wasn't a unanimous the first year.
Okay, so I got it right.
You did get it right. Yeah, you did.
All right. Okay, cool. All righty, guys.
Let's get going. I think that was just Dean bragging that he got it right.
Might have been.
I think I'm the only one that answered it too.
Well, you might have been. We'll let it go. We'll let him have that one.
All right. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the depth chart. We're going to get started with the QBs. 247 has predicted, as I have been predicting, Cade McNamara as the number 1 quarterback, even though he supposedly had a bad showing on Saturday scrimmage or Friday scrimmage, whatever day they scrimmaged. Sullivan, number 2. So that's a change from Marco being number 2. And interesting enough, they've got Markle and Jackson Stratton sharing the 3 line. And so does that mean Jackson is showing some more than Markle?
I don't think it means much anything.
Okay. All right. And your opinion, if Markle drops to number 4, does he come back next year?
No.
Why would you? It's almost, you're just going to get the Labus, Deuce Hogan, Carson May. You're just going to get that treatment. You might as well get out while you can.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Because when you go 3 and 4 years with no stats except 2 series in a bowl game that was already, the outcome
decided,
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you've got something that's keeping you there that's beyond football, I would say no, go.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, either way, this is probably Sullivan's job next year. Wouldn't you guys agree?
I would.
Okay.
It might be his job this year.
That could be. As I've told people, I firmly believe, because of the way Kirk works and everybody knows how he works, that Cade will be our starter unless he somehow gets injured between now and opening day. I don't know if he will stay there, though. That will be up to Lester if he's able to convince Kirk that he needs to switch quarterbacks. And speaking of that, do you think Tim Lester has the opportunity to actually have a say-so in his quarterback?
Boy, yeah, I think he does. And it comes with a caveat, though.
Okay.
It's going to depend if Kirk listens to Tim Lester in the third or fourth game, and I think it's going to depend on how well Tim Lester's offense goes in the first three.
Okay.
If he really has a good 3 games and Iowa scores a lot of points and seem like they're clicking, and something just goes wrong, he may pull Cade. It's hard to say with Kirk because he's very stubborn. I don't know. That could go either way.
I kind of want to go one step further too. Does Lester have the confidence and the feel as a new OC at Iowa 2, 3, 4 games in to approach Kirk and try to steer Kirk around to see his opinion? I mean, he may not feel confident enough to go up to Kirk to do that.
Well, he may do it in a very political manner. He may say, "Hey, I know you're the boss, and I know I'm the first year here, but can we look at this? Do you think it would be prudent for us to look at this?" And he may approach him that way instead of going out, and saying, "I think we should do this." He should be a little more political about doing it, and maybe he'd get a little further.
I can imagine Brian wasn't very political since it was his dad.
No, I'd hate to see the Sunday afternoon lunch dinners that they have
JD,
with their cold pizza.
Yeah.
Dean, don't even get me started on the cold pizza, day-old pizza. JD, though, what do you think Kirk has an issue with getting a guy out there to see what he can do once he's in a game? I mean, they always take the story back to Hayden Fry when Chuck Hartwood was there. Awful in practice, but the dude knew how to game when he got in the game. And they never would have figured that out unless Hayden gave him a shot in the game. But it's almost like Kirk is I'm not a fan of Kirk, but I'm just going to say this. I feel that Kirk sometimes is worried that the other guy may actually look better. The fans will see that, and then that will put his judgment in question. Now, that's very, arrogant, but, sometimes that's how I feel.
That is definitely a possibility. And, I don't know exactly what would be a good answer to that. I'm not sure I even know how you could, there's so many things that going through Kirk's mind, and I don't even want to pretend to be in there.
No.
I know he's very loyal to a fault almost.
Mm-hmm.
When he left, it really bothered me the year that he left Beathard in at Tennessee in a bowl game, and Iowa was getting their heads bashed in, and so was he. And I kept saying, "You're going to kill this kid. Get him out of there." And I said that I'd say that from about midway through the second quarter all the way through the fourth. And he finally took him out late in the game.
Was that the game where he was injured pretty much and we insisted on playing him?
Yeah, it was I don't know. Tennessee scored 48 points on us or 45.
Yeah.
Didn't Beathard get injured that 16 season too, 3 games in? And he played with that deep bruised thigh the whole season?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was 16.
Okay, so Kelvin says Bill Snyder was the Hartwood guy. He liked to play the big-time recruit like McGuire. Okay.
Yeah. Dan McGuire.
Yeah, Dan McGuire did not work out for us. He went to San Diego State. I don't know if he panned out there or not.
He played.
He played?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess everybody thought because of who his brother was that he was going to be a big-time quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys even take it back 2 years ago, I think, when Iowa was on the road at Ohio State, and I think, the first 3 series, Petrus had the first play of the game was a pick. The second or third series was another pick. He only came out because he was injured. And I think Kirk would have left him out there.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like Kirk doesn't understand the scrutiny that these quarterbacks are under from the fans. And I'll be the first to admit that I'm a very harsh critic when it comes to it. I mean, I feel if you're in a Power 4 program and you're a starting quarterback, QB1, you should be confident, cocky, arrogant, and ready to sling that ball around. And we haven't had that since Beathard, in my opinion.
Stanzi, maybe not Stanzi.
I think
Stanley
Stanley was pre-Beathard, wasn't he?
Stanley.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
Stanley.
thought Nate
Yeah.
Stanley was decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, Dean. Sorry.
I think
Go
the
ahead.
the
No, you're
only
fine.
the one of the few knocks I got on Stanley is he never beat Wisconsin in his home state, and you would have thought he'd been motivated.
Yeah, but he also never lost a bowl game.
That's true too.
Now,
That's
JD,
true too.
I have never taken that into account, JD. So thank you. That puts I sometimes need to have better perspectives put in front of me.
Always got to look at
Yeah.
the bright
Okay.
side eventually.
All right, let's move on to the running backs. They've got LaShawn Williams listed as 1, Caleb Johnson as 2, Kamari Harris as 3, Patterson as 4. Guys, I'm going to just be honest. I mentioned this earlier. I don't understand why LaShawn Williams is even listed at number 1 if he has yet to practice a game. He didn't practice in the spring, and he didn't practice in this fall camp. And so why would he be listed as 1? Just because he had the most yards last year?
I think it's trust. I think it becomes a situation where he doesn't put the ball on the ground, and Kirk trusts him, and he knows what he has in him from the year before. Not that he doesn't know what Caleb Johnson also has. I think, honestly, if you looked at things, and I think if you were to pick his brain, I think you've got LaShawn 1A and Caleb Johnson 1B.
Okay.
I think they're interchangeable, but he's got to put somebody in the number 1 line.
Yeah. So I expect to see both of those guys playing quite interchangeable.
Dean already knows I have a feeling that by week 4, Minnesota, LaShawn will not be the featured back. And I'm even going to go farther out in my bold prediction that by the end of the year, our featured back will be Jazzy Patterson.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's going to make a jump over everybody.
Yeah. I'm hearing good things about Kamari Moulton,
that's kind
too.
of what LaShawn did last year, though. The Wisconsin game pretty much put him on the map with Iowa after that.
Yeah. But Kamari Moulton, we've been hearing good things about him, too. And
a lot of good things.
Yeah.
The thing is he showed us flashes last year, but Kirk couldn't play him more than 4 games, and I don't know how many games he actually played.
He started a lot in that Penn State. I mean, he played a lot in that Penn State game because I think it was just down to him and Jazzian, really.
Yeah. Yeah. LaShawn blocks, runs between tackles, breaks tackles, lowers pads, gets extra yards.
Yeah, he's bigger boy.
Yeah, he is.
Boy, but Calvin's also forgetting the main part, though, and that is, what does he do when he hits that secondary? He doesn't
He's
have
not real
breakaway
fast.
speed.
He's not going to outrun. He's not going to outrun anybody.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having him play, being that, thunder and lightning effect, but
yeah. It seems like it's worked out before where you put him in and let him just batter and ram, and then you throw in Caleb, who is a little shaken and gone. Like you said, thunder and lightning.
You could tell last year that our offensive line and that Wisconsin game and the backs, they just wore that defensive front of Wisconsin. I mean, they didn't know what was going on in that fourth quarter.
Okay.
And then Castro put the stamp on it in the fourth quarter for the defense. Yeah. Man, he had some good licks up in there in Madison.
Yeah, Castro's my guy.
Yeah. The only thing I question Williams on, first of all, is will he even be ready? I mean, because he's, like I said, he didn't practice fall, he didn't practice spring.
I don't think
he is he going to come out? Is he going to come out of camp and run?
Is he not? I thought he was ready.
Well, I'm hearing that he's got soft tissue injuries, but you don't know what that means. And it doesn't sound like it's anything serious, and that he would probably be practicing this next week for game week. That's what I was hearing out of Camp Kinnick.
All right. Well, let's move on to the wide receivers. Okay. Every game, we got Caleb Brown as our number 1, except for the first game of the season. We know he won't be playing that game. He is backed up by Caden Weegan. And then we got 3 wide receiver spots listed on the roster this year. Jacob Gill is the other number 1 wide receiver, backed up by a true freshman and Reese Vanderzee. But, they've been saying he's got some talent and that he might be seeing a lot of playing time by the time the season moves through.
I think they like his length. He's 6'5".
Oh, yeah. That's a good place. You get out people.
Yep. And he's got a lot of upside to him. He's got decent speed, not elite speed, but he's got decent speed. And he's got good hands from what I'm hearing. So I expect him to play some. I'm not going to predict that he's going to start at any point, but he might next year or the year after. But I'm hearing a lot about Jarrett Bowie.
Yep. He's listed as a backup to Seth Anderson on the third line.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're pretty young in that area. I shouldn't say young from a standpoint of youth, but more of a young from a standpoint of experience.
Yeah. Well, when you look at, go ahead. No, go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt
you. No, it's fine. I'm just, that's going to be a position group that Iowa's going to have to bring along and develop. And I'm a little nervous about their position coach being able to do that.
I think somebody below us here will be glad to hear you say that.
You're not a big fan of him either, Budmeyer?
So this is my issue. He's been given these promotions that I can see that there's never been an explanation. I mean, I understand that Coach Bud is a nice guy. The coaches love him. But have you ever heard of another Power 4 program that brings in a wide receiver to, pardon my language, but pop his cherry
right
when a team is looking at a playoff berth and we're putting in somebody that has no experience? They already said he's been going over to Lester to figure it out. So he's taken time away from Lester to figure out the position. And then Kirk tries to double down by saying that he had wide receiver experience at Colorado. Or no, he was a wide receivers coach at Colorado State. He even admitted it in the interview. He would be in the same room with them a couple times with the quarterbacks, but he was never a coach. It's like, why did this guy get this position?
I don't know. I heard he came in as a kind of a quarterback guru, and then he got switched over.
Guess what? Guess who he brought us with his guru is?
Right, Deacon. Yeah. That didn't help.
Did you ever see Petrus get better?
I never saw any development out of Deacon. In fact, I saw him get worse as the year went on.
Yeah, he peaked. I can't remember what game he peaked in. I think it was Rutgers, and after that, it was all downhill.
Yeah. First game, and then he got fumble fingers and throw it to the other team fingers.
Yeah. I mean, well, he just laid it on the ground, let the other team fall on it.
Dean, what did we come up with again? What were his actual numbers of fumbles and interceptions? Because Kirk, that's the one thing he says. We walk such a thin line with this offense. Ball control it's like the number one key. And basically to leave him in with, I'm going to say it was like 14 turnovers he cost Iowa. That's a slap in the face to Marco and to Lavis, because Lavis was healthy halfway through the year and Marco, but then to go on publications and say that Deacon gives us the best chance to win. I mean, it was the most asinine thought process I'd ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't real excited about that either.
Yeah. So anyhow, the only college experience wide receivers we got are Caleb Brown, Jacob Gill, and Seth Anderson. Nobody else has caught a pass in college.
And Gill has no stats from last season.
Yeah. So the thing I was thinking is, you know how like people like the media who were at the Kids Day and Brad Heinrichs, who was at the practice and scrimmage last week now, are saying that the passing game still needs some work. It's not very good. I'm wondering, at first, my first thought was the quarterbacks. It's the quarterbacks issue. What if it's the wide receiver issue? Or both?
This is kind of where we get left out in the dark, Dean. I mean, we don't know.
I think it's a combination of really could be all three things. It could be a combination of the receivers haven't gotten their feet really planted yet in the position. They don't know the plays as well, so they're not running the routes the greatest. The quarterbacks are not getting the ball out, and they're also going up against the number one defense in probably the Big Ten.
Right. Okay.
I mean, that does need to be taken into consideration a lot of times too. That
Mm-hmm.
They're going to look at Illinois State and go, "Oh, this is going to be a relief." Yeah. We're not going up against our own defense. Wow,
I was telling Dean though today what worries me is pretty much it's been assumed that Iowa State's our second toughest game of the season.
Yeah.
If Kirk goes into Illinois State and does an 85-15 running versus passing, and these receivers don't at least get some balls thrown their way, are we really going to try to do this against Iowa State, breaking receivers? I mean, that's what I'm scared of. I really hope that Kirk, and I told Dean this, says to the Illinois State coach, I don't usually run scores up, and I'm not saying we will, but I'm going to let my boys play today. And if we get 70, it's no means to be offensive to you or embarrass you, but we have to get these guys some reps. But I know that if we get up 17, I mean, hell, they can come back and score 10 and we still won't put the pressure on.
Yeah.
70 would be nice, but probably more realistic, 35-10 or something like that.
I take 56. I mean, I take 42. Let me say, I take 42.
If we could score in the 40s against them, I would feel like we're coming back.
I would feel like that would be a relief. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to answer Cody's question?
Yeah, I was just going to do that.
That's
It didn't seem like
Cody, by the way.
Yeah, Breven Dahl came in. He's a true freshman. He's a running back. I've heard that they are throwing some balls to him, but I think he's doing both because this might be a case where you got to try to figure out how to get his speed on the field. And they may want, this may be something Lester's looking at saying, if we can put him at wide receiver and show him how to catch some balls, if he gets the ball out in the open, who's going to beat him to the end zone?
End arounds or wide receiver screens or something simple that he can get out in space.
Yeah. And Jason, one of my usual partners, says both Weegan and Breven Dow will only be doing sweeps. They probably won't actually be catching the ball. And so we'll see.
Maybe
we'll see how that goes. And I hope they do get to catch some balls.
We'll see what happens later in the year, though, when everybody starts getting things figured out.
Yeah. I'm going to move on to the tight ends here, but let's see what Kelvin has to say.
That's probably true.
Yeah, that's very true.
I agree with that, but it still doesn't mean that we can't pass the ball and score points.
I agree with that, too. Make them very simple passes.
Yeah. I mean, but,
just out-talent Illinois State.
So we'll go to the tight ends. This one's pretty cut and dry. Luke Lachey, Addison Estranga. Oh, I think the other one is like Zach Orwith or something. I forgot to write him down. And Johnny Pascuzzi, who originally went in the transfer portal but came back. So, but he showed some signs last year. I think he got a couple of catches his way.
He got some playing time.
All right. Well, the O-line we got at right tackle Jennings Dunker, backed up by Nick DeJong. Now, guys, was Nick DeJong, is the reason why he's a backup in every position this year, is it because he shows some potential, but he really kind of let us down on the line last year as a starter?
There are a lot of fans that are disappointed that he returned and then took up a scholarship. I don't really know much about him, so JD probably knows more than I do.
Oh, I don't really know that much about him. Nick DeJong, he's just he's kind of a fill it in wherever you need somebody to help you out.
Yeah, and I think you're going to find that Tyler Ellsbury is going to be the same on this list. Mm-hmm. Yep. Connor Colby's the right guard, backed up by Tyler Ellsbury. Logan Jones the center, backed up by Tyler Ellsbury. Bo Stevens left guard.
Left guard, yeah.
Yeah, backed up by, I want to say Caden Piper, but I think I've been hearing Peeper by people. Okay, I should look that up to see what his actual pronunciation is.
I hope that we don't have any injuries on the offensive line because there's not a lot behind them.
There's not. And same with the defensive line, but we'll get to that. Mason Richmond, backed up by Nick DeJong. Peeper moved to center. Yeah, but I think the O-line, the way it is these guys will also move around the other tackle spots and guard spots too, wherever they need to fill in, because as long as Logan Jones doesn't get hurt, nobody else is playing center this year. Going to try to kind of go through these real quick so we can get to what I really want to talk about, the meat of the show. Left end today on the defensive line, DeDonte Craig, backed up by Max Llewellyn and Keith Merriweather. I had said on one of my previous shows earlier about the new people and the backups, I said those are two names you guys are going to want to listen because I think they're going to make a name for themselves. So to see them actually there, it makes me feel good. Their name: Aaron Graves, Jeff Bowie, and Will Herbert. Right tackle Yaya Black, Jeremiah Pittman, and Luke Gaffney. I'm hearing good things about both of those two right now, Pittman and Gaffney.
Yep.
I mean, we might be developing our backup defensive line for next year already. Getting them ready for that, and if they can get some playing time,
I think they will. Yeah, I think they will get playing time this year.
Right in would be Ethan Herkett, Brian Allen, who I've been hearing really good things about. So I'm really surprised to see him as a backup, but he'll be a starter next year.
Yep.
Caden Crawford is another right end backup. Linebackers, okay, at the Leo Cash position, they've listed both Fisher or Castro, which is kind of funny because if it's Fisher, I don't know where Castro would go because he's not listed in any of the other positions back there.
Depends on if we're 4-3 or 3-4.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Thank you for clearing that up for me.
Sure.
Backup Leo is Jackson Rexroth, and backup Cash is John Nestor. So it's sounding more and more like when we get here, some people are starting to solidify their spots. Maybe. Actually, we did Leo Cash, and so I should have clarified myself. Yes. I wrote down both. I didn't say it that way. I apologize, Calvin. Okay. Middle linebacker, Higgins and Harwell. That would probably be a name we want to listen to for next year, along with Nestor and Rexroth.
Jaden Harrell.
Yeah, Jaden Harrell. It says WLB. I know it's a linebacker, but I don't know what the W stands for. Nick Jackson, do you guys know? WLB? I just said wide linebacker. I don't know why, but that's what it just seems like.
Weak side, maybe.
Oh, weak side. Sure. There you go. That might be it. His backup will be Carson Scherer. I see a lot of potential. I don't know that we need to go out and fill these spots with transfer portals. I see a lot of good names and a lot of potential for next year.
We watched the spring game earlier this year, and Carson Scherer was one of the he was the highlight of the defense.
Oh, great! That's good to hear.
In the spring, and I was very excited about him.
All right, and so
yes.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Dean, you do know you don't have to worry about us going and using a lot of the portal next season, right?
What's that?
You know that you don't have to worry about us going and utilizing the portal next season.
Okay. Right? Well, since we have to get rid of about 30 people off our team to get down to 105 next year, we probably weren't going to use the portal much anyway. All right. Okay. Where are we at? Oh, yeah. Left corner is TJ Hall, backed up by Nestor. So it sounds like TJ Hall may have finally nailed the spot down from Nestor. So maybe Nestor being rumored to be the starter. TJ Hall went out there and took it back. Okay. Right corner, Jamari Harris, backed up by Deshaun Lee. Honestly, guys, from what I hear about Nestor, he's doing fantastic. Mm-hmm. But I have no problem with Deshaun Lee, Jamari Harris, or TJ Hall. I think that's a good core right there in the corners. Anything? Guys, Rita can disagree with me or agree with me. I don't care.
We're just letting you go so you can get to the topics.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then, of course, the free safety is Quinn Schulte, backed up by Zach Lutmer, who we understand had a good kids' day. Strong safety is Xavier Wampa, backed up by Cohen.
Entringer,
yes. And it is Cohen. I heard people calling it Keene the other day, but I looked up the correct pronunciation of his name, and it is Cohen.
Yep.
Okay. And then, of course, our punters, Rise Dakin, and kicker is Drew Stevens. Reese. Is it Reese?
It's Reese.
I thought it was Rise. Okay. Reese.
That's how they do it in Australia.
Okay. All right. Reese Dakin. And then thank you for that. Kicker, Drew Stevens. Returner will be Caton Whitgene. I don't know if that's just punter or kick returns or both. Okay. All righty. And
the only thing I want to add to that is that Iowa may be looking for a walk-on kicker for a backup. I don't think Trip Woody's ready for the big stage yet.
Okay. All right.
So there may be an option for somebody sitting out there that wants to be a walk-on at Iowa and be the number 2 kicker. So if there's somebody out there listening and you want to be a walk-on kicker and you're good, give Iowa a call. You'll probably be number 2.
Yeah, there you go. And Luke Elkin is our long snapper. All right, let's get down. I was wanting to talk about the intangibles that could affect Iowa's record, and I had them. Like I said, I'm on record as going 11-1 with them. But then when Nicholas and I started talking about this earlier today, I realized that some of these intangibles could affect Iowa's schedule. One of the first things we looked at is who do we play coming off an off week? Usually we get a couple of those. Only Michigan State do we play coming off a bye week, so that might benefit us right there. But just going over, I'm going to just stop and pause and ask you guys' opinions on this. But just going over, like the week before we play Ohio State, they play at Michigan State. That shouldn't be a real tough game for Ohio State. But where's what the kicker is? They go to Oregon the week after Iowa. Do we kind of catch Ohio State looking ahead a little bit, hopefully?
I don't think that they'll be looking ahead to anything at this point. They know what Iowa has and they know what they are, and they'll be ready for Iowa. I don't think you're going to see them looking ahead.
Okay.
I don't. If it was Minnesota they had before, or Illinois or Indiana or something like that, they might, but not Iowa.
Okay. Nicholas, anything?
I mean, I wish they were playing us after the Oregon game, because maybe we could catch them like we did in 2017, coming off that huge emotional win against Penn State.
Right.
And we caught them at the right time. I mean, the week before that, they were considered like, this is the national championship team. And the following week, first play of the game, pick 6 for Iowa, and it was on.
All right. Okay. Knowing how the Minnesota game got robbed from us last year and Iowa playing Troy the week before, do we kind of overlook Troy looking to get that game back from Minnesota?
I don't think they'll overlook anybody, but I think Troy's going to give them a better game than what they expect.
Okay. All right. I know Troy's been a semi-decent team for a few years, but they're under a new coach and they lost a lot of players.
And they're playing in Iowa City.
Yeah. So, okay.
See
Moving on.
how Iowa does with that southern speed as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a good test.
And
those D-backs are going to get worked.
It's a good third game of the season.
Yeah. So we're out east playing Maryland the week before Nebraska, which I think we all agree Maryland could be a troublesome game for us.
Iowa's coming up a week too that week. Iowa's coming up a bye week.
Yeah. So I'm not using the intangible of having been on the West Coast at UCLA because we got a whole week to recover.
Right.
Okay. And so almost 2 weeks actually by the time we play the game.
Because a Friday night game to a Saturday, 2 weeks, a week and a half later.
Yeah. And so we're at Maryland. We got Brian at Maryland. And then the next week we go to Nebraska. We're traveling back from the East Coast. And yet we have to, at least we're at home on a Friday night game.
So they eliminated that. No longer are you going to play night games in November in the Big Ten. So apparently that's no longer the deal.
That's going to be almost impossible to stop now that we've added the 4 West Coast teams.
And it's going to be cold.
I know it's going to be really cold. I would think so.
I don't know. We'll see.
It's already cold enough in November. Let the sunshine go down and then play the game, right? Let's do that. Okay. By the way, that's my granddaughter. I want to say hi to Emmy. Hi, Emmy. I didn't know you were a follower. Thank you for following. She lives in Oklahoma, so she's a Sooner Boomer fan.
Oh, yeah.
JD, on your podcast, did you say that is it Oregon or is it USC that doesn't have to play west of or east of the Rockies after like October?
Yes, it is USC.
Okay.
Yep, they play all their the rest of their games after October 19th. They play all the rest of their games on the West Coast.
Isn't that crazy?
Dean, do you have your little book of schedules there? Does Oregon have to come into Michigan or Wisconsin in November at any point? They do?
Wisconsin.
Okay.
They got Michigan earlier in the year, like in, I think it's early October, actually.
Okay.
But they do have to go to Wisconsin, I think November 16th. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong.
Ooh,
Guys, help
man,
me out here.
I hope for
Is-
a good old cold one that time.
Is
Cold and
Oregon and
rainy.
Washington actually warmer in the winter than Minnesota and
Yes.
Michigan and Wisconsin?
They still might get snow, but it's not going to be as bitter as it is in Minnesota and Wisconsin at this time of the year.
Out there, Dean, when it snows, it melts the next day. It's not
Mm.
like in the Midwest when it snows and then you get the Arctic chill for the next 2 weeks.
Kind of like Denver.
Yeah.
So, Wisconsin, interestingly, comes to see us
Mm-hmm.
after they play Penn State, but they do get a bye week and have Oregon 2 weeks later. What do you guys think about that? Is that work to our favor? Could they be a little beat up coming off Penn State? But they do play Penn State at home.
I mean, it goes back to what I said earlier. If the emotional win, I mean, if they get a win, I mean, just hypothetically look back at 17. We whoop Ohio State.
Mhm.
We go on the road to Madison, and Nate Stanley has by far his worst game, I think, as a Hawkeye.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for
2
Josh,
interception returns for a touchdown. Josh Jackson.
Josh Jackson's 2 pick sixes. That score would have looked a lot uglier.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All righty.
I don't know if that helps, but if it was that, Penn State is always a physical team. Always.
Right.
Wisconsin has been traditionally a physical team, especially under Paul Christ and Barry Alvarez.
Right.
I don't know if they're going to be as physical under, what's his name now? The new guy. Help me out.
Rule or the other one?
No, not Rule.
Rules at Nebraska.
Help me out. I forget his name. I just had his Fickle. Yeah.
Fickle.
I don't know
right
if they're
here.
going to be.
I'm looking right at it too.
I don't know if they'll be as physical under him. Maybe they will be. And if they are, that's great. That's going to help Iowa because you're going to see guys it's going to be a slugfest. And I don't know if they want to come back and do the same thing against Iowa a week later. I mean, that's going to take a toll, right?
Yeah. That's what I think is they go from one physical team to the next physical team. And so I think that works to our advantage. So looking forward to Oregon, that's not going to be a big deal. Nebraska, really, they have Wisconsin at home before they come to Iowa. But before that, they have USC, UCLA, and Ohio State in reverse order. So they could be physically and mentally beat up by the time they get to Iowa, hopefully.
We made mention this on our podcast, and I think Keith did, that he's not 100% convinced that Raiola is going to make it to the last game. He thinks he's going to get taken out. He's going to get injured. And I don't know, that may be true, but because I posed the question to him, I said, would you rather see Nebraska early in the season or later? And I don't know if later or what would be an advantage to Iowa. Is it later that he may not be there and they may be on a second string quarterback? Or is it later that he's actually got his feet wet and he's understanding things a lot better and the game's starting to slow down for him at the end of the first year? Right. So you pick your poison. I mean, he's either going to be gone or he's going to be really a lot better. Who knows? He could be worse too.
That's true.
There's a lot of things going on with Nebraska that I'm just really a question mark.
So he is going to be their number one quarterback, even though he's a freshman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
You don't pay that guy that kind of money and get him to pull from Georgia by not giving him the starting job.
Right.
Okay. But hey, can you imagine if Colorado clips them the first game? I mean, I almost think that Nebraska could self-destruct again if they get beat by Colorado first game. Or no, second game.
Second, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Colorado has to kick off with, is it North Dakota State? It's a team that they said that Sanders doesn't want to play.
Well, if it's North Dakota State, I'd rather play North Dakota than North Dakota State, I'm telling you. And that's who Iowa State starts with.
Yeah.
It looks like they lost their left tackle for the season. I guess, according to Calvin, it's their best lineman. Well, that sucks.
Well, they'll still have a whole year to get somebody in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It sucks, but, I'm sure that they've got some talent behind them. The one thing about Nebraska, despite their record, I always felt they had a lot of talent on that team. I just don't think they were coached properly. No, or am I wrong? You guys have something different?
I don't know. They've had some good coaches there. I mean, Scott Frost, like him or not, he did well with, was it Central Florida or Southern Florida? Which Central Florida, wasn't it?
Yeah, but those weren't his guys.
Well, that's probably true too. And then when he had to go to Nebraska and he had to actually recruit on his own and get his guys in there, then things kind of fell apart for him, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, I just think it's because of the way he coached them. I just think that they
He was
fell apart.
arrogant.
Very arrogant. He didn't take any of the blame. He publicly throws players under the bus.
Right.
Well, I think you also have to look back too. Wasn't he in the waning years of Osborne as well? I don't think that Osborne. I think it was almost like a Penn State. I don't think Osborne did much with that team. He was more just a face.
I thought that was it Albert that was the AD at the time? Was one of the players back in the day, back in the 80s, that was such a great player?
Oh yeah, he came back and was their OC, and then he just left this year.
Well, he was their he was their AD, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I thought he was,
and then just left.
And then he just left. Yeah, I mean, he may have been run out after the Frost deal too. I mean, he could have. I'm sure he went to bat. I'm sure he went to bat for him.
Yeah, he probably stuck his neck out a little bit too far for him.
Yeah.
Well, I just didn't think that he was running the right offense for the talent he had on offense. I think he was trying to run a more of a pro style, kind of like what Kirk Ferentz was running for years.
He had too many Adrian Martinez playing for him.
Yeah. Yeah. It just seemed like there was always a Martinez behind the quarterback.
Yeah.
The quarterback, I mean. But the thing is they tried to make him throw the ball a lot, and remember how many interceptions we would have against them?
Oh yeah.
Because he would throw it. He wasn't a thrower, he was a runner.
He got confused when Nebraska put out their black shirts. He thought he was throwing to a black shirt, and he kept throwing it to Iowa all the time.
Yeah. Kelvin says that Albert's the one that fired, I'm assuming, Frost.
Yeah.
He was,
and then left.
Then left.
Then he left. I mean,
but I think he hired this guy though, didn't he? Didn't he hire Rule and then left this year? I think.
Did he hire him? Okay.
I think he did hire him.
I mean, it's kind of like Beth. I mean, she fired Brian, but we know that it wasn't her choice. That came from people way up above her. That she just had to be the
or donors or the donors.
I
Yeah.
mean, we knew Kirk wasn't going to do it, so somebody.
What a sad thing for Iowa to go to every game and hear chants of "Fire Brian, fire Brian." How do you think Brian felt listening to that every week?
Maybe do a little bit better with your job.
The sad thing is, though, Dean, is if you have my belief, I don't think Brian was the one calling a lot of those plays. But to me, it was kind of reckless on Kirk to have his son get just destroyed by the media, but never try to defend him.
He sure didn't have. He wasn't qualified for one. No, he was an offensive line coach and shouldn't have been.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't a quarterback coach, and I think that was proven when Stanley said nobody helped him with his mechanics or anything like that. You would think a quarterback coach would also be working on mechanics instead of plays.
Well, since 2020, has Kirk actually made a logical promotion and hire yet?
Special
I'm not
teams
going there yet.
Special teams, maybe. I don't know. LeVar Woods would be the only thing.
Was LeVar hired, though? Was he before?
He might have been hired. He might have been. Yeah, he was. He was before 20.
Yeah, he was.
So since 20, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, certainly John Budemeyer's not going to be it. Or Budmeyer, whatever you want to call him.
JD, you have I'm so afraid that he's going to push for Seth Wallace, who has an issue with people with mental health and learning disabilities, and then Budmeyer. I mean, if he pushes that agenda and tries to get them to be his replacements, God,
we're in trouble.
Sad. Yeah.
Maybe Beth will know better than to fall into line with the old boys club.
I hope so. Man, I hope so.
Okay. All right, moving on, guys. We got a couple more games to do.
Okay.
Washington. They play Michigan the week before they play us, but they have Indiana the week after. How do you guys think the Michigan game affects the Iowa game against Washington?
I mean, it's the same thing. It can be either an emotional win or it can be a defeat where they get beat up. I mean, let's face it, Michigan's going to play hard defense. Mm-hmm. And Washington saw it last year. They couldn't do anything with it, and they had Penix at quarterback.
Yeah.
The fact that Michigan beat Washington in the championship last year, do you think that gives Washington extra motivation in this game, or is
No.
there just not enough of the people left from
Do
that
they
team?
do they even have a player or a coach on staff that was there?
They had
that's still
46
there that was
transfers
there
out.
last year?
Yeah. Well, they said there's only one starter returning, and he's on defense. He's a linebacker.
And all new
There's-
coaching staff.
All new coaching staff.
There's
Yeah.
nothing there.
So really, this is a whole new team. This doesn't even.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't worry one iota about Washington. They're going to be decent. They're going to be decent. They're not going to be great.
Okay.
I mean, you're looking at it. Could be what was TCU the year before last, right? That got smoked by, or not smoked, but they got beat
Georgia.
by Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they're already saying Washington might be the next team that does the complete reversal the next year, like TCU did this last season. I mean, it's just going to be a.
It's hard to replace 46 people leaving the program.
Yeah, that is.
Well, yeah,
Well, that's what
I mean, the head coach, and then he took a bunch of people. But hey,
Right.
the one thing I will give Washington credit for, though, is they knew the coach was going to be leaving, and they were proactive and looking for somebody else instead of being reactive and waiting 3 months to, or 4 months to make a hire.
Is this something where Nick Saban told Alabama that he was leaving early before he told anybody else, and they went hunting for somebody, saying, "Hey, don't let this leak out, but we'd like to hire you when the season's over."
I'm sure Saban maybe let some people know, but they said that the biggest issue was this NIL thing. I mean, even though Saban's done it his whole life, his whole career, jumped from job to job for more money, he's against the kids doing it, and he doesn't like it because now he can't. Everybody in that SEC that's got money is on equal ground. I'd be worried about if I was somebody on the NIL. I'd be worried about Arkansas. You ever looked at who their alumni are?
Sam Walton,
the guy that owns Tyson Chicken. There's like another one. So, and you got the whole Walton family. I mean, it sounds like Arkansas, they can pretty much buy and sell whoever they want to.
Well, aren't they the ones that got pretty much an unlimited budget for the basketball team?
That's how they got Calipari there. Well, those Kentucky fans wanted him gone. I mean, they wanted Calipari out.
Okay. All right. I think we got 4 more games to do, guys. No, I guess we got 5. I didn't realize. I thought we were moving along quicker.
Proceed.
Yeah. All right. Going to the Maryland game. Who plays Penn State the week after us, and then Rutgers the week before us. I don't know how that plays in. It's still a worrisome game to me. But maybe if Maryland's having a halfway decent season, they look a little bit ahead to Penn State a little bit.
Have you really looked at Maryland's schedule?
Yes, I have.
They're going to be real light up front.
I actually have them at 5 and 7.
Yeah, I do too. But they're going to be real light up front. Their first 7 games, they might be 7-0. Then they run into a buzzsaw. Then they find out Penn State, Iowa, Rutgers. They start getting into the meat of the schedule. They're very, very back heavy on their schedule.
Yeah, they're not going to be 7-0, but they could go 6-0.
Okay.
Because USC is their 7th game.
I think Dean and I talked about this, and I think I'm going to take it a step further. They have Brian. It's the guy that after – no, I'm just saying it was the game after. It's the team he went to after he left Iowa. He was very hurt by how Iowa handled that. Wouldn't represent the Tiger Hawk anymore, made that silent protest. He will have that Maryland team. If he can get any time with them leading up to that game, he will have them focused to beat Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Jerry, we talked, Nicholas and I have talked about this, and we're not really sure what the rule is. An analyst cannot be on the field or anywhere near the stadium on game day, or am I wrong?
Oh, I don't know if he can be in the stadium. I don't know if he can be I don't know if he can be in the communications with the team. I don't think he can have a headset or any of that.
So he could possibly go up in the press box and watch the game and take notes.
What I would be more worried about is what he's going to do with them through the week, preparing for Iowa.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's where our biggest worry would be is what is he telling them the week of Iowa game?
I mean, you know that Brian can relate to these young kids, young men. I mean, he had a lot of fans in Iowa, so.
Okay. All right. Jerry, who's this that says this?
Well-
Behold, it's my podcast partner.
That's actually Keith using his son's
Okay.
my nephew's
Okay.
account.
All
He right now
righty.
he's in the Bahamas, so
Oh, must
I
be
hope he's
nice,
having
dude.
fun. Yeah.
All righty. Okay, so next up is Michigan State. I got this one. I think I don't know. We're sandwiched in between at Oregon and at Michigan. And before at Oregon, they're at Ohio State at home, so they've got a pretty rough stretch there. I got to believe that they're going to be kind of worn down and beat up a little bit by the time they get to Iowa, and they'll have nothing in the tank for Michigan.
I don't really know, honestly, anything about Michigan State. I don't know what they've got for. I mean, they should be jumping for joy. They escaped what, $90 million, having to pay that Tucker $90 million,
Right, for something he did.
So yeah, exactly.
I'm not worried about Michigan State. They basically Michigan State is Oregon State 2.0.
Okay.
Basically, they got all their coaching staff. They got all their players that transferred in from Oregon State. So it's a whole different ball game. I don't look for anything out of Michigan State. Maybe 3 wins, 4, maybe at the most.
Yeah. I always felt like this. If you get a lot of transfers in, it's kind of hard to gel them all and get them all on the same page the same season. That maybe you want to get them for a couple of seasons.
The only caveat to that is that you had them last season.
Okay.
Because you were the coach at Oregon State and they come and follow you.
Okay.
Hey,
I did not realize that their coach was from Oregon State because I thought
Jonathan Smith.
I thought they promoted the temporary coach that they used. They didn't?
Mm-mm.
AD.
Okay. Yes.
A lot of teams have no problem gelling players year after year. Ohio State, Georgia, Bama, Texas, Florida State. They all can do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He's right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Keith,
and with
I agree with you on, Keith.
Too many unknowns right now. And that's what it is. When you got transfer portal people and new coaches, it is an unknown. You know, it's kind of a crapshoot what we're doing here.
I think it's more or less getting egos in check and making sure that everybody follows in line.
Yeah. Okay, so UCLA, when we go there, the week before they're at Nebraska and the week after at Washington. So I'm not sure how that fares for either one of them. I would hope that Nebraska would be pouncing on them a little bit and they go back to but you know, the one nice thing about it is we both play a Saturday game that week and we both got to travel to the West Coast for a game. So they don't have any more of an advantage than we do.
No. I don't know. I'm not too worried about UCLA. I know there's some people that are predicting UCLA will take Iowa just based on like you said, an intangible that Iowa has to travel on a Friday to get out there all the way across I don't know how much I read into that. I really don't. I think UCLA is not going to be very good.
Kirk's 1-3 west of the Rockies. It's the only other intangible.
Yeah. Yeah. Kirk did say that he would never take a team, regular season team, to the West Coast anymore, but there he goes. It was taken out of his hands.
He should fly those boys down there on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well, I think he'll fly him down there. I don't think he's going to wait until Wednesday or Thursday. I don't think.
That
would be foolish. Yeah, that would be foolish. You know, it's different when you play a Friday night game at Nebraska because it's a whole different ball game.
Dean, do you already have your 50-yard line tickets purchased for that?
I do not.
What are you waiting on?
I might not be living here in November.
Oh, okay. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
He might be a boomer sooner himself.
I might be going to some Sooner games.
Hey,
if
I've been to a Sooner game. My
granddaughter's still on here. She would be glad to hear that.
I've actually been to a Sooner game.
I've never been to one, but I would love to be in that atmosphere one time and see how it goes.
It's a very, very raucous atmosphere. I tell you what, though, their tailgating isn't very good.
isn't it?
No, it's nothing like Iowa City. Nothing.
JD, I can say I've been to Alabama, Oregon, Wisconsin. There's one more, and there's nothing quite like Iowa tailgating.
Right.
It's very hard to compete with that. Now, I will say, somebody said something about Washington. They really do it big out there. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that's like a money thing or if it's, in Iowa City, you get hoodies, keg beer, and brats. I mean, that's all I need. But some of these people go all fancy.
Yeah, that's the thing about Oklahoma. When I was down there in 2011, it seemed like it was a corporate type of deal. It was more corporate tents and that kind of stuff. It was like Brahms is big down there. The ice cream place.
Yes. I love that place. And they got the best burgers too.
And my cousin actually works there. He's one of the higher ups. Anyway, he got us tickets to the game through Brahms, and then we went to the Brahms tent, but there was also a lot of other corporate tents all along that same. It just seemed like there was very few just individual public people just doing a tailgate. Now, it was an early season game. They beat Ball State 62-3, so it wasn't much of a game, but it wasn't the atmosphere that I kind of thought it would be when I started the whole process of going down to the games or game.
Two things I can say. The other game that I was at was Florida State, so at Bill Campbell, that was the other stadium. But at Alabama, the thing I will give them credit for, the sorority girls, and the fact that they let their RVs start coming in. I believe it's on Monday night or Tuesday mornings, and those people literally sit there all week, partying and all that, leading up to game time. Now that is something special, I will say.
Yeah. Okay. Final game, guys.
How do we get on Purdue?
I don't know.
We're talking about the bottom of the league. I believe it was started by Jerry's brother here.
I mean, Carl, I live out here in South Bend, and I don't really. I mean, Purdue had Iowa's number when they had Braum, but
not since.
Has Purdue really ever done anything? I mean, did they even really do much when they had a Tiller?
Guys, are you glad that we don't have to play Purdue every single year anymore? Because I am.
Kind of.
Yeah. And the same will be with Northwestern, too. I'm glad we won't have to play Northwestern every single year either.
Yeah. They always seem to kind of have Iowa's number for a while there.
Both those schools do, but I think we've owned them the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Well, that was who knocked Iowa off the perch after we jumped to number 2.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, they didn't like, it wasn't last second, like they beat us
24-7, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
both
it
those
wasn't
teams,
even that close.
Right?
I think Iowa scored late.
Yeah, it was both those teams. Yeah. And I think the season before, the shortened season, we lost in both Northwestern and Purdue back to back to start the season.
When it's season, yeah.
Yeah, so they've had. I think most fans were smart enough to realize we did not like playing those teams because they had our number.
Well, Fitz is no longer there, so I don't know if Northwestern's going to be as fired up to play Iowa, because he always got him fired up because Iowa broke his leg back in the day when he was playing.
Yeah, but he letting his son walk on at Iowa.
Yeah, that could open up some things for us.
It's that old Western Pennsylvania mentality.
Yeah. So look at it this way. Let's say Kirk retires after this season with his son coming, new coach, because, we all probably expect Phil Parker to leave with him. They'll ride in the sunset together. We bring in Fitz as our defensive coordinator.
Oh, my God. First off, if Kirk Ferentz basically pinches and puts every penny in the account and eats day-old cold pizza, you think he's really going to leave $28 million on the table, Dean? Come on.
I know you and I have talked about this before, and I think he could.
How much money do you need, really,
no
though?
Way. No way.
His kids and grandkids are set for life.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't need any more money. He's just going to donate most of it to the kids' children's hospital anyway.
So
that's one good thing I like he does. That. He gives back.
Yeah.
Did Kirk do that before Brian and his wife's first child, I believe, passed away? Or did he only do it after that?
I thought he did it every year. A certain amount he gave to him.
Well, I mean, I heard it's $1 million. I mean, that's what the standard is, what it's been or whatever. But I was just curious to know if he did it pre-Brian or post-Brian, or if it was just always been in his.
I don't know that answer.
So
I don't
So, you
know.
guys, Carl is saying 10-2. We either lose to Ohio State and Washington or Michigan State. But
I don't think we're losing to Washington or Michigan State.
I don't think so either.
It's either
I'm
going
not
to be
really
Iowa
worried about
State
either
or
one of those
Nebraska.
games.
I'm worried about UCLA and Nebraska.
Nebraska and Maryland for me. Iowa State for sure.
It's too early. Iowa's still getting used to the new offense, and I always play Iowa State. Always plays Iowa tough.
They do.
Well,
They do.
but,
And
but JD, you do know that Iowa State has a leg up on us this year, right?
Did they get a kicker?
Well, I guess they do have that, but you do know that they were able to wrangle in a wide receiver that Budmeyer couldn't close the deal on.
Oh.
Iowa State sure did.
Oh, I didn't know that, and I'm
Dean,
sure
what's
that gives them
his
3
name
points.
again? Isn't it Green? And isn't he going to be starting this year for them?
I know we talked about it, but I don't honestly know at this
They
point.
lost a starting wide receiver this week to injury for the year. I don't know who it was.
If it was the transfer, then, but I just know that was one that the media didn't really want to pick up on, I think. I mean, I know that Iowa's probably got the thing out about, don't jump on Budmeyer soon, but dude, you lost a guy to Texas A&M. You lost another one, I believe, to Fresno State. You've lost the guy from the Dakotas that went to Iowa State. Like, you've lost in-house, you've lost in the portal, and you've lost in the recruiting. Like, dude.
Yeah. Their wide receivers, their starting wide receivers are listed as Jalen Noel, a returner, and Jaden Higgins, also a returner. He's not related to the Higgins at Iowa, is he?
I don't believe so.
That would be a media story if it was.
Yeah. So they don't say anything about the transfer portal wide receiver coming to Iowa State.
Hold on a second, Dean. I'll find it here.
But they did lose a guy. I don't think it was one of the two starters, but it was somebody they were thinking that would play a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you want more than two wide receivers.
Yeah, you get pretty tired if you're running their offense.
Okay, so Dean, it's Eli Green, and he comes from North Dakota State, but that was the one that Iowa was really it came down, I believe, to us, Iowa State, and somebody else, but yeah, Budmeyer couldn't secure that one either. Eli Green.
Okay. I'm going to try to keep up with these comments. They're coming really fast.
Oh, yeah, that deep oil money down there. Well, like they said, look at SMU down there. They
Oklahoma State.
See that they don't even want any money. For the next 5 years, they're not going to take any TV contract money. They're paying it all on their own. Like they said, you know what kind of money those Mustangs are working with down there?
Yeah. So, Carl says he's never been a fan of Campbell or Iowa State. I'm going to tell you right up front, I mean, I always root for Iowa over Iowa State, but I have always rooted for Iowa State to win their other games. I've never been like, I hate you guys so bad, I hope you tank. I've never been like that, but I know a lot of Iowa fans are like that.
If they clip us this year, Iowa fans better get on board to rooting for them to keep going. If they go 8-4 or something, even if we finish 10-2, that loss is not going to do us any favors unless they're Big 12.
You say that, Dean, that you're always root for Iowa State, but I could tell right now that you never went to the 2002 Iowa State game. Because if you did, you wouldn't say that.
I was at work. I was at work at Kmart that day, and I will tell you what, I cheated and worked in the electronics department that day and had all the TVs turned to that game, and I actually was working in the Ames store, so I had to be careful. But yes, I hated that. I remember it well.
It was as much the game too, but it was after the game back in the tailgate because I was there and I went through the tailgate and they were the most obnoxious, most arrogant, most just, they're the people you just really want to turn your back on and walk away from because they're so, I don't even want to get into it, but you would not be a fan. They're the worst fans I've ever had the pleasure or displeasure of ever being around.
I will say this about that. Yes, when you go online, some of those online fans are horrible. The only fans I've dealt with in person are people that I'm friends with or related to, and they've been very humble Iowa State fans.
It's kind of like, Dean, it's kind of like when you watch the Two Guys podcast. Iowa fans on there really don't say anything negative about the Cyclones.
Mhm.
Those Cyclone fans, I mean, even when it was the Caitlin Clark, like we weren't playing them again. We'd already played them. Those Iowa State fans, at least on that podcast, it was basically beat them, smoke them. Like they didn't want to see Caitlin win. But JD, I go back to that 0-2, not after the game, but during the game. If we just would have had review then and they would have seen that Banks's arm was moving forward when that ball came out, we wouldn't even be in this discussion. Iowa would have run that season undefeated. I think we still would have gotten hosed by Miami and Ohio State, but
Probably.
we at least would have been undefeated.
Yeah. All right.
Any more games, Dean?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done. I was just kind of wrapping up with some of these comments real quick. The one from Dakota's is just one of those things that the in-house losses were addition by subtraction, in his opinion. I'm not sure who he's talking about. If you guys could bring me up to speed.
I think he's talking about Eli Green, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I guess, can you? I don't. What is the stance on that? I guess I'm not. What is Keith trying to say?
I'm not sure. Maybe he should say what he's saying.
Can you,
I know addition by
in layman's
subtraction.
terms?
Yeah, if you could clarify that, please do.
Because keep in mind, the only wide receiver we got was one that Sully got for us with no stats, and that's the only receiver that Iowa apparently really truly went after. So,
well, I think he got him because he wanted to come in and follow his buddy, his roommate over Northwestern.
Yeah.
So I don't even give Bud Meyer credit for that recruit. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't.
I don't know what you're giving Bud Meyer credit for anything.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Figuring out how to get a job from Iowa and make all that money. That's
a big salary. We know that.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
So Kelvin Fisher says Kevin Bell said this was about the Fresno guy that we lost to Fresno. Little boys wanting big boy money. I remember when he said that.
No, I mean, you know what? The fact is, if Iowa fans want to live with their head in the sand and not understand, this is the changing of the game. You can keep playing these 2-star white guys out of Iowa, but eventually you got to start moving ahead and thinking, we got to get money. But the Swarm, they said, is losing money, losing members. I don't know.
Okay. It says, he says again, know the guys that transferred out of Iowa. So he's saying that no big deal. We gained more than we lost, I guess.
Yeah.
I will say I am looking forward to watching what's his name at Texas A&M. I think that is going to be between Petrus, and Deacon. It'll be interesting to watch those three guys.
Yeah. Yes, Iowa State has at least. Okay.
Well, they named Petrus co-captain today.
Oh, he did?
Game. Yes. So I think he's going to be the starter game one.
What school like Utah State wouldn't want a proven Big Ten quarterback in their stable?
Right. And you get him out of Brian Ferentz's offense, and the kid might flourish.
Yeah.
Hey, Deacon Hill might
I'm anxious to watch him.
Transformation in college football history at Utah Tech.
And I guess Deuce Hogan was named the starter wherever he ended up at, New Mexico State.
Yep. So hold on though. If I have this correct, doesn't Petrus play USC in like week 2?
I think they do.
And I think they actually play Utah as well. I mean, he's going to get some big boy games with them.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's what they're hoping for, that the big boy from the Big Ten can help them win some big boy games.
Well, shouldn't Utah Tech be saying the same thing then? I mean, they got a Big Ten caliber quarterback that was in a championship, man.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy to see what he brings early on.
Utah itself
Besides
is supposed to challenge for the Big 12 this year and a playoff spot. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me read through some of these real quick. Iowa State has at least 3 losses on their schedule. They do the same thing every year. 7-6 last year, and 4-8 the year before. What year did we beat them when they were ranked ahead of us, and then their season went south?
19.
I was thinking it was 21 or 22.
21 was the year that we beat Indiana, them, and Penn State, and then all 3 of those teams crapped the bed at the end of the year.
Yeah. They made us look bad. Here we thought after 3 weeks we were like flying high.
But I think, wasn't that though? No. What was the game where the punt went off of the dude's shoulder and we got the ball back and secured the win? But it was the one when Game Day was there. Was that 19?
It was the 19 or 18, one of the two.
Yeah.
Probably 19. I think it was 19.
Carl, we don't count the COVID year. They didn't play in front of
Yeah.
fans. And
I still count it because the games were played, but my cohort here does not count it. Okay, all righty. The wide receiver room is better than they were. I'm assuming we're talking about Iowa.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
That's like I said earlier today. The talent is there. It's just unproven.
Well, according to another podcaster from another Hawkeye podcast, one of our former receivers, I guess, is a waiter somewhere in an Iowa City restaurant. So
I heard that.
For those of you going to the game, for him,
Nico
Ragaini.
Yes.
I mean, he spent 6 years at Iowa, probably got a halfway decent degree out of it, and he's waging?
Well,
maybe
those guys don't make too bad of money.
Maybe he's
the tips are pretty good.
Him an assistant to the wide receivers job.
Yeah,
there you go.
He wants to know where Vines went. He went to Texas Tech, correct?
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M. Okay.
Deontay.
Yep. Wait a minute. Somebody did go to Old Dominion. I don't know who though.
It was the first receiver that left us.
Oh, that's Vines. Vines was the first one that left us.
Vines went there, and then it was Bostic. No, is Bostic the one that went to A&M?
I think so. Yeah, Bostic.
Did he go to Old Dominion?
No, Bostic didn't go to Old Dominion.
No, he went to
he's the
Texas
one that went
A&M.
to A&M.
Yeah.
Hard to keep track. Deuce is at his third home now. We know that. It's funny how he gets as a walk-on and buried like number 4 quarterback at Kentucky for 2 years, but now's a starter for New Mexico State.
Hey, Dean and JD, let me ask you this. Will we know that Marco has entered into the Wavis and Padilla and Deuce category? What game will Kirk make that off-color remark about him to the media on a hot mic? Because that's when you know that he's never going to see the field in Iowa.
I don't know. Could be 6th game of the season. I don't know.
Well, when he said, what was it again? They wouldn't have even brought Deuce to Nebraska. They wouldn't have even come if Deuce was going to be playing at Nebraska that year.
Yeah, I heard him say that. Yeah, I was kind of like, oh, why would you say that?
Yeah.
2019, they went 9-3. Is that Iowa or Iowa State? Because we went 10-3, I believe, in 2019 when we beat USC.
I would assume he's doing Iowa State with that.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's been giving us Iowa State records.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't think Iowa State's going to be that bad. I really don't. I think
they might even get their first 10-win season ever.
Right. I know that there are some other local radio people that are really high on Iowa State, and I don't necessarily follow and drink their Kool-Aid either, but I think they will be better. I'm not sure they're going to be 10-2. I look more and more like 8-4.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we think that the Big 12 got stronger or weaker by losing Texas and Oklahoma?
Oh, why? By far weaker.
They're by far weaker. That's why they had to bring in the Utahs and the BYUs.
I mean, but you guys,
which helps.
Do you guys think that Oklahoma is going to rebound after last year now that they're in the big boy league?
No. Oklahoma's going to be down this year.
I mean, Texas is firing on all cylinders, but
this is funny though. Oklahoma is ranked in the top 12 and projected to be a playoff team. But I'm thinking, well, considering who they got to play in the SEC, how the heck are they going to have that many wins?
Yeah, something's not jiving with their mathematics.
Even Texas. I mean, they even got Texas up there as the top 4 team.
Well,
and
Texas,
I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, well, they played in a Big 12 conference last year.
Dean?
Yes.
Nobody beat Alabama the way Sark beat Saban. He was never beaten like that in Tuscaloosa before.
Really?
Texas is there.
Okay.
Texas
all righty.
They do have a little bit of a question mark at running back, but I think other than that, they're pretty solid.
Okay. Jaron wants to know which one went to Old Dominion. That was Vines. Okay. Bostic and A&M.
Went to A&M. Okay.
Darlow SB says 21. I'm not sure what that means. Because sometimes by the time I get your comments, the part of the conversation you're commenting on is way past. And so if you could actually fill in a little more details for us, I'd appreciate it.
Here's a quick question for you two, and anybody else. Break down the playoff amount of game or teams that are going to be in each conference. So like, is the Big Ten getting 4? Is the ACC getting 1? Is the SEC getting 4? How are we breaking this down, do you think?
what channel is the playoffs? Who's predominantly going to get the playoff games?
If it's NBC,
ESPN.
Notre Dame will be in it.
Well, no, I was going to say if it's ESPN, I'm going to say 4 from the SEC, 3 from the Big Ten, and then you got to. Okay, so this was a question I had though, JD. You might know because I don't think Dean could know. I don't think he knew this. So everybody gets a spot from the Power Four, right? The 4 champions of the thing.
Yes.
So then you got your. Are they still going to take that small school like a Troy or like an SMU? I mean, are they still going to take one of them if they finish in something?
I don't know about that. You're talking about like a group of 5?
Yeah.
Like last year, it was what, James Madison, or the year
Yep.
before it was Coastal Carolina or whoever.
Yeah, one of those.
Yes.
Darlo,
I think
that's
they
an
will.
interesting fact, Darlo. I did not know that.
But only one.
Okay,
but
so
they have to. But they also have to have. They also have to have a schedule that warrants them being in the playoff. In other words, they can't just go beat the Sisters of the Poor and be 12-0. They have to have won at least something.
The group of 5 team we're talking about?
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's say that that's true then. So then that would be, let's just take 5 teams off the table. So that leaves 7 spots, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So then you got to think, you're going to have the runners-up, which is the SEC. Are they doing what the Big Ten did, or are they still running the East versus the West?
I think they're still doing East-West, aren't they?
Okay. So, I mean, personally, with those 7 teams, I would think the Big Ten will get, well, juice. The Big Ten would get 2 more. The SEC would get 3 more. That leaves 2 spots. I can't
ACC and Big 12?
Well, then you got to have the Big 12. I mean,
1.
Probably
one from the Big 12.
ACC 1.
Yep.
So maybe it would be a 5 and a 4 for the SEC and Big Ten.
I think that's what they're thinking.
So instead of a national championship, it's really Big Ten versus SEC this year.
Well,
who's better?
I wouldn't sleep on a Florida State team.
No.
This year. I mean, they got a lot to play for if they get into that playoff. I mean, but the question though, so the other thing I found out was the way they're going to do a Big Ten tiebreakers are they're going to look at all the schedules of the teams tied, and the schedule that had the best overall record of the teams will be the pecking order of how it would go. So if Michigan and Penn State are ahead of Iowa because their opponents have a better record, that's the only time when this kind of softer schedule could bite us.
I agree.
And I'm not saying it's soft because, I mean, besides Ohio State being kind of not a question mark, almost every team on a given day they could make it close. I mean, usually every game we're within a touchdown or a field goal losing. So,
you know, one of the things also we got to think about too with group of 5. You know, you're talking about, like I said something about James Madison and Coastal Carolina. You also got to remember Washington State, Oregon State, Notre Dame are no longer in conferences. They would be a group of 5 teams. So you got to think about Notre Dame then.
We already know then it's going to be the Fighting Irish.
Yep.
It's our foregone conclusion now that I know that.
Yep.
Well, they got to have the record too, and they got to beat somebody.
They're in.
But they don't play anybody. I mean, they play a couple good games a year, and then they play nothing. Yep, USC at the end of the year, very last game I think for them.
Don't
they play Texas A&M, don't they? Right off too.
Yeah.
Did they not sign up for another Big Ten team after Ohio State?
Purdue.
No, Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah, I think they play Purdue, don't they?
Oh, they do. Okay.
I think they do play Purdue this year.
Because do you guys remember back in the day when it used to be Michigan and Michigan State, like back-to-back weeks? I mean, those
guys, I gotta bolt for just a second. Carry the conversation for me.
We got it. I think we can do it.
I mean, but honestly, I mean, personally, I hope that every team that we beat along the way starts to win or keeps winning after they lose to us, because we need everything. If we get what I'm worried about, JD, is the fact that Iowa's going to be going up against Ole Miss, LSU, possibly Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia. Clemson if Dabo finally gets back on track. Then you got Penn State, Michigan, Oregon. There's probably going to be another team in the Big Ten, I feel, that's going to have – it could be Nebraska, it could be Wisconsin. But there's just going to be a lot of what-ifs playing for those final 7. And I just hope that Kirk finally believes that you got to have some style, because look what happened to Florida State last year. Undefeated, did everything they were asked, but because their TV ratings were going to plummet because they lost that quarterback, they figured out a way to put a one-loss Bama and a one-loss Texas over them.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how this first year of the 12 playoff. And I don't, like I said, I'm not going to pretend to know what the matrix is behind the selection process after the initial, like the conference champions. I don't know how that's going to work. If it comes, like I talked about this on our podcast, if it comes down to a situation where Iowa and somebody else are basically head to head, neck and neck, it's going to come down if it's the national perception of Iowa and last year that they can't score. And then if they had go out and do the same thing this year and win by 3 and 5 points and don't show any style points, they're going to get left behind. I guarantee you they'll pick the other team if it comes down to the human factor.
But JD, that's the problem though, is that too many people don't believe that. They think that they just have to win. And it's like, you got to win with some pizzazz now, boys. You can't get by with the 1 and 2 point squeakers against a winless Michigan State or something. Like, you got to learn to keep the pedal down.
Let me throw this scenario at you. We're going to use Iowa. Iowa wins every game except for they lose to Iowa State and they lose to Ohio State. So they have 1 loss in conference and 1 loss out of conference. But the out of conference team that they lose to, Iowa State, wins the Big 12. Iowa then, by luck of the draw with 1 loss, takes on Ohio State in the championship game, a team that they had already lost to in the season. They also lose. Iowa loses. They now have 3 losses. They're 10-3. Do you take a 10-2 team who didn't play in a championship game? Or you take the 10-3 team that did and may get penalized because of it?
Well, I think Iowa gets penalized for
playing
in the championship game and losing.
I do too.
Well, didn't Alabama make the 14 playoff a couple of years, not even playing in the SEC championship?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think it comes down to, what did we lose to Ohio State by?
Right.
Was it close going into the midway through the 4th, or was the game decided? And in the championship, do we basically do where we don't do anything and the numbers just plummet? I mean, if that's the case, no, there's no way they take us. But
no way.
2 hard-fought games against potentially the number 1 team in the country, I don't know. Maybe they do take a 10-3 Iowa team over, say, a 10-2 LSU team.
That just made my point, because we're talking about style points again.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We come back to the national perception of Iowa. If they score points this year, maybe they get the nod. But if they continue to score like they did, let's say they lose to Ohio State during the regular season, 24-17. And then they lose in the championship game 21-17.
I think
they didn't score, but they also didn't let them beat them bad. Do you still let
I think Iowa would have a good case to say, we lost these, but we were in every game up until like the final drive, or, this and that. I mean, yeah, that's what I think, but that's also because I truly, whether people want to believe it or not, I do love Iowa Hawkeye sports, and I love Iowa football, and I want to see them do good. I just wish we sometimes made better, smarter moves, but I think that, I would love nothing more than to have Iowa to get ready in mid-December for a playoff game. Oh my God, it'd be awesome.
A home game.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm gonna try to catch up on some of these. I've not read any of them lately, but one person pointed out that Carson May and Deacon will be playing each other in football against each other.
That was Darlow. Good point, Darlow. That is something. I hope that gets some ESPN coverage. I'm not going to lie.
Anybody know what week that is? Because I want to write that down. I may try to go find that game.
Yeah, is it Wyoming versus Utah Tech? Isn't that what Carson? Is Carson at Wyoming, right?
I don't know where Carson went.
Darlow, if you're still on here, would you tell us when that game takes place?
Wait, though, but here I have a question to go with that, Dean.
Mhm.
Does Deacon carry a chip on his shoulder because he can pop that collar and say, I at least started and played in a Big Ten championship game?
You never got off the bench. Yeah. I felt for Carson, but he seemed like the typical Kirk Ferentz quarterback, Carson May. And I don't know why, I think he saw the handwriting on the wall, but it is what it is.
Makes me nervous.
Dean, is that the one that I said when he was on that other podcast with some past walk-ons that said that when he went to ask for his letter to be able to leave, he got a handwritten letter from Kirk that told him the teams that he wasn't allowed to go to? Was that him?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay,
that's what you. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
If he's that worried about him, why is he letting him go?
Why do we even recruit him, JD? That's the problem. I mean,
Yeah.
Marco, if he gets led astray, it's almost like we derailed his career.
Yeah.
Okay. So
It's
anyway,
possible,
I'm
possible.
gonna read this one. Whoever wins the regular season versus Oregon and Ohio State will lose the conference title. It's hard to beat the same team twice, especially when the team is really good. I want to say that I have Iowa in a 3-way tie at 11-1 with Oregon and Ohio State, but we lose the tiebreaker.
Hey, here's a situation to put out there, Dean.
What's that?
What if Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa, Oregon, and Michigan all finish with one loss, and Ohio State's schedule then, with their overall teams and the teams they beat wins, it's not as good as, say, Penn State and Michigan's.
Then you got to take
Ohio
Penn State and Michigan
out of the Big Ten championship.
Iowa won't get in because of their schedule, if that's the case.
I'm not saying Iowa, I'm saying
rule.
Ohio State. Just to see them not make the championship with one loss would be something too.
And yet make the playoff and probably win it.
Oh yeah.
There are many people who have them at 12-0.
I mean,
that they're going to run the table this year.
They got to question the quarterback yet.
I will say one thing though. I would put the farm on. They will absolutely smack down Jerome Moore. It's not even. I bet you Ryan Day beats the pants off Michigan this year.
We'll see if Sharon Moore's even still there at that time.
Yeah, because he is named in the NCAA investigation. He was part of the issue.
Didn't they say that they may have to actually? They could come down to forfeiting like almost every game last year or the last 2 years or something.
So far, the only thing they've done is slap Jim Harbaugh on the wrist because he's no longer going to play in the college lane. So that means nothing. The punishment he got.
Right. Well, he was going to come back for the first game or the second game or whatever it was, and be the honorary person. And Paul Feinbaum said, "Get him out of there," and then he's no longer going.
And he basically said, I think the PR excuse was he wants to get ready for his coaching gig with the Chargers, so he can't make it back. And it's like, so you're telling me that you couldn't just do a private jet 2.5 hours up to Ann Arbor, let him do it, and then put him right back, and he'd be back within probably 6 hours? Like
he'd be gone a total of. He'd only have to do the presentation, then he can get out of there. So he wouldn't even have to stay for a full football game.
And do you think the media, if they do not get in, if Penn State doesn't make the playoffs, do the media members hold James Franklin accountable for his statement to them saying, if we don't make the playoffs this year, I will resign?
Yeah. I don't think I think that's just hyperbole.
The current players get to pay the price for the sins of Captain Khaki Pants. I like that. I never heard of that one before.
That's Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's ripping on Harbaugh.
Keith, you do have some wit to you. All right.
He's smart. That dude's smart now.
Yeah. Okay. Guys, this has been a great show. I think this might be a good place to end it. I don't know if I've ever done an hour-and-a-half show before. I usually try to cut it off at an hour.
Paul's usually anxious to get off.
Yeah. Oh, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever.
Yeah. No, this has been fun. It was real interesting. I just let it go. I mean, we had a lot of fun. I mean, I think actually the best part of the show was after I got done with the first two agenda things. So, guys, this has been really fun. I appreciate you guys. I will definitely ask you back at a later date.
Sure.
But I don't know when because I got my other partners who are probably just itching to get back for the football season.
Dean?
Yeah.
Can we though, before we go, the last thing we do, can we address Calvin's last thing? Because I would be curious to know this as well. do we think that it actually is? If it's true, did Cade get $800,000 to come? When I would have to assume he would be the highest paid.
Calvin probably actually knows the answer to this, but I think he wants to know if we know, because
Calvin,
I would say
Cade.
Cade. In my opinion, it's Cade. In my opinion, it's Cade, but I don't know who else it would be.
I'd say it has to be Cade too.
I feel like, of course, he put this out there though. Like maybe it's not, because Cade seems to be the
Oh, we have an answer.
Lucy Olson.
There we go. Well done.
Last year might have been what, Caitlin? No, I don't. She had
Caitlin didn't get any NIL money because she had so many sponsorships.
Yeah,
she didn't need it.
Speaking of Caitlin, she's doing really well.
She is having a fantastic season, and I think that month off was just what she needed.
She needed it. Mm-hmm.
She looked like a whole new person the last 2 games.
Yeah.
JD, did you happen to see the bet that David Portnoy, the founder of Barstool Sports?
I didn't. What was his bet?
He put $100,000 down on the Fever to win the WNBA championship at 10,000 to 1. So he'll recoup $12.1 million if he wins.
They're playing pretty good ball right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've got enough to get to the championship, but they're doing pretty well. If they can continue to improve as much as they have since the beginning of the season all the way through to the end, they might. They're definitely a playoff team. I may have to actually start taking some parlays out against them again. I don't bet. We work too hard for our money to throw it away like that.
Especially when you have, and I can't bet in California, so I got a safety net.
Especially when you have these WNBA refs. They're terrible.
Gosh, they're horrible.
They are brutal.
Well, the thing that used to get me was, and Dean would hear my wrath on this. Why did Caitlin in the first half of the season completely not do anything in the fourth quarter? She wouldn't put the ball up. She just would pass it off. And it used to drive me nuts because I would need her to score like one more 3 or like 4 points. And I'm like, how can you not even score 4 points? Come on.
Yeah. Now she's taking it over.
I think the coaches finally just said, Caitlin, do your thing. And the nice thing is I don't like some of the ball hogs on her team. Like what's her name? The girl that does all the scoring too?
Kelsey Mitchell.
I don't like the fact that she doesn't pass the ball once she gets it, but she scores. Yep. That's the most important thing. She scores when she gets the ball. Earlier in the season, she wasn't scoring.
Hey, Dean.
Yeah.
I read an article this morning, though, that said that Indiana, the reason they're doing good is because it's almost like they've realized, and I guess they were talking about Kelsey Mitchell, that they realized that Caitlin is the scorer, and they get her the ball, and they said that it actually made Kelsey like loosen up, and she's had a great 2-game stretch, and they think that that's why this team maybe is on to something. Yeah. They kind of all have figured their roles out now, and they're playing as a unit.
Yeah, I bet if we look at the team stats, I got to believe Kelsey Mitchell's probably scoring more points per game than Caitlin is.
Probably. But the thing that I saw out of Indiana Fever that I think really kind of turned around is their pace of play. They have really sped it up.
That's spot on, Keith.
They sped that game up so fast. They are running up and down that court and running out of their team right out of the gym.
They are.
They did that to Mercury. The Mercury, the first night back, they ran them. Their tongues were hanging.
Yeah, and they were old ladies running up down there. Mercury are old.
She let Diana Taurasi know what was really up, didn't she? She said, reality's already come to you, baby.
Yeah. But the Fever, they've quit playing Erica Wheeler more than a couple minutes a game.
Fine with that.
I'm fine with that. I don't understand Kaylee Lou Samuelson playing because she never scores points.
Well, Lexi Hull didn't score until the last game. She was like 22% from 3-point line, and then she had 6 out of 7. So,
yeah,
it's who knows.
So this isn't to get the conversation worked up, but did anybody see the thing that came out where they talked about Swoops talking about the Fever and talking about how she mentioned everybody except she wouldn't even say Caitlin's name. She talked about Kelsey scoring points, Alicia Boston or Aaliyah, whatever her name is,
Aaliyah,
and the Wheeler, but she wouldn't even mention how Caitlin has statistically gone up too. It's
Who's this? Her coach?
How petty can someone be?
Swoops.
Oh, okay.
How
Swoops
petty
doesn't
can
like
someone
her.
be?
Yeah,
Swoops
yeah.
has been on record as not liking her.
There's a lot of them that don't like her. That Minnesota coach hates her. That's why she kept her off the Olympic team. She said, if she's on the team, I'm not coaching you. And I just said, well, then goodbye. But
Yeah.
that's just me.
I
So,
know.
you know,
I
there's a lot
said
of
this
animosity
when
to her.
I said when she wasn't on the Olympic team. I said that's the best thing that could happen to Caitlin.
I agree. I said the same thing.
I agree, Dean. And the sad thing is with Caitlin,
She'll have a couple
Because-
more Olympic teams that she'll be on.
because she's patriotic, though, and because she is kind of America's girl, she would have gone and honored the commitment. And I think you're right, though. She very well could have been completely burned out. I mean,
Yeah.
the fever may have been taking a plummeting after coming back because she hasn't gotten a break. But she finally got a break.
Yeah.
And look at her now. She looked
Yep.
rejuvenated the other night.
I told
She did.
Dean JD that I really wish.
She looked like she was having fun again.
I told Dean one time, JD, that I almost wish that Caitlin would have said to the WNBA, you know what? You didn't want to call a foul when I got basically shoved down. You let these girls get away with everything. I'm going to take Ice Cube up on that deal, and I'm going to go play in his summer league for $6 million, and you guys spend for yourselves over here.
Yep.
I just would love to see, and all of a sudden, but then, of course, the narrative would be, oh, my God, they're conforming just for her. It's rigged, it's a lose-lose situation.
You see the women are forming a 3-on-3 league right as soon as the season's over. A couple of the players are getting it going, and Caitlin was asked if she was going to, but she kind of danced around the question, making everybody believe she is, that she's going to join that 3-on-3 league.
I wouldn't. I mean,
I wouldn't either. I'd risk
wouldn't do
injury.
it.
She doesn't need the money. She doesn't even have to work when the season's over.
No.
Like some of the other girls have to go overseas to continue to make money. She doesn't have to do that. She's set.
Did you see they came out with a new basketball for her?
I
And
did
it sold
not.
out before it ever went out on sale.
Wilson, isn't it Wilson that endorses her?
I think it is Wilson.
Yeah.
I thought she was
Yeah.
a Nike girl.
She's not Nike, is she?
Well, maybe she's Nike with apparel, and maybe she's Wilson with basketball. I'm not sure how
Yeah.
that can even work, but maybe. I don't know.
I think when you're at Caitlin's status, honestly, I think you can kind of name your own. You can kind of set your own parameters in your contracts.
Yeah. She's
It's
that
not
big.
like me. I'd be happy if they said, we'll give you $1,000 a year. I'd be like, sold.
Yeah. Where do I sign?
Yeah. Well, Carl, going back to football,
Carl
says, I
Notre
think
Dame,
OSU
come
and Notre
on.
Dame are the only two teams that have a chance of going undefeated in the regular season. But as I said, I don't see any team finishing the regular season undefeated.
Oh, there'll be one. I don't know who it'll be, but there'll be one.
Georgia? No,
Could
Georgia's
be.
in a tough league. They're going to have to lose one.
Could be Georgia, Alabama, or Texas.
Yeah, you think
Could be
Alabama
Ohio
really
State.
bounces back
No.
with their new coach and
No,
everything?
I don't see Alabama being as good.
I'm kind of curious to actually. I think what I'm more interested to see is what if that DeBoer has like 3 losses? Those fans aren't gonna. They're not gonna let that ride.
They might tar and feather
It's
him.
gonna probably be you either get it together next year or start looking for something different.
All right,
Yeah.
guys, let's end this now. I mean, I hate to. This has really been a good show, hour and 37 minutes. Thank you for participating. I think it's one of my better shows. Hopefully, it gets viewed. So, guys, please, if you're still here, hit that like button before you sign out, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. All right.
On Iowa
Please.
and go Hawks.
I had a
Go
great
Hawks.
time. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
fun.
you,
Thanks,
guys.
fellas. Enjoyed it.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.